there's a certain sound that instantly transports you back in time. The clatter of wooden chairs sliding across a polished floor, followed by the rising chatter of 30 pupils trying to settle before the register. Chalk dust drifted through beams of sunlight like tiny snowflakes, and the blackboard carried the faint ghost of yesterday's lessons. It was ordinary, wonderfully ordinary. Yet, if you look back now, some of the moments we took for granted would be met with wide eyes today. In the 1980s, classrooms were their own little worlds, full of routines, quirks, and everyday habits that felt completely normal at the time. The echo of shuffling exercise books, the warm hum of radiators, the sharp ring of the school bell, each detail carved itself into memory. And while much of it would be unthinkable in modern schools, for us, it was simply how a Tuesday began. Step inside a typical 1980s classroom, and you re-met with a scene that feels frozen in time. Rows of wooden desks stood proudly in straight lines, many etched with decades of initials and tiny marks that told their own quiet stories. At the front, a large blackboard dominated the room, its chalk tray overflowing with white dust and stubby pieces worn down by 1,000 lessons. Wall maps curled slightly at the edges, overhead projectors sat humming on metal trolleys, and the radiators clanked and rattled through winter mornings as if arguing with the cold. Even the faint scent of polished floors carried a sense of routine and belonging. Back then, the environment was simpler, fewer rules, more independence, and a great deal of trust placed in pupils to figure things out as they went. Learning often meant rolling up sleeves, building models, sharing materials, or gathering around a demonstration with wide-eyed curiosity. The equipment wasn't fancy, but it worked, and it encouraged imagination more than perfection. These everyday details weren't reckless or unusual. They were simply reflections of a generation growing up in a Britain that was adapting, experimenting, and discovering itself in new ways. Moment number 1. The teacher's desk was sacred territory. There was one place in every 1980s classroom that carried an almost mythical aura: the teacher's desk. It wasn't just furniture, it was a private zone, a command center, and a treasure chest all at once. Inside those drawers lived colorful chalks arranged like precious gems, sheets of gold star stickers, carefully folded reward charts, and the teacher's own stash of stationery that pupils could only dream of touching. And you knew the rule without anyone saying it. If you even leaned towards the teacher's drawer in the 80s, you'd get a stare that could freeze water. Today's classrooms feel far more open, with pupils invited to help organize resources and share responsibility for the space. But back then, that desk marked a clear line, a tiny symbol of authority in a world we understood instinctively. Moment number 2. The noise levels that shock us now. Looking back, most people forget just how loud 80s classrooms could be and how normal it felt. The day could shift from quiet handwriting practice to full-blown controlled chaos in a heartbeat. Group activities meant chairs scraping, tables being pushed together, and 30 voices competing to be heard. Rainy day indoor play only added to the volume, with board games unfolding on the floor and bursts of laughter echoing off the walls. And nothing compared to Friday afternoon art sessions when the whole room buzzed with excitement, chatter, and the sound of paint pots being opened and closed. Yet teachers handled it all with a kind of effortless authority. No microphones, no electronic timers, just a projected voice, a sharp clap, or a simple countdown that somehow brought the room back to order. Today's classrooms often feel calmer, shaped by clearer noise policies and modern tools that guide behavior gently. But back then, the soundtrack of school life was loud, energetic, and wonderfully unpredictable. It was part of the charm, and we barely noticed it happening around us. Moment number 3. The mystical overhead projector rituals. There was always something quietly thrilling about the overhead projector, a machine that felt half scientific and half mysterious. The moment the teacher rolled it forward, pupils straightened in their seats, waiting for that warm beam of light to fill the room. Then the switch flicked, the lights dimmed, and a hush settled as transparent sheets appeared like secret documents. Squeaky pens glided across the surface, shadows danced on the wall, and every word glowed as if arriving from another time. There was something magical about watching your teacher write on a glowing sheet like it was a message from the future. Today, digital screens and tablets offer sharper images and endless resources, yet they rarely create that same sense of anticipation. The overhead projector wasn't perfect, but it turned even ordinary lessons into small moments of wonder. Its gentle glow still lives on in memory today. Moment number 4. Hands-on experiments and activities. One of the greatest joys of 1980s classrooms was how hands-on everything felt. Lessons often spilled out of textbooks and into real, tactile adventures. Papier, MCH volcanoes dried on windowsills, their colorful layers hinting at the grand eruption to come. Beans sprouted in plastic cups lined along the radiator, each one proudly labeled in felt-tip pen. Simple circuit boards with small batteries lit up tiny bulbs, creating gasps of victory when they finally worked. Even plastic magnifying glasses turned an ordinary walk around the playground into a miniature expedition. And of course, rulers became makeshift periscopes or telescopes, sparking imaginations far beyond the page. The room often looked chaotic paint splashes, glue trails, and half-finished posters pinned everywhere. But it was a good kind of chaos. We learned by doing, experimenting, and discovering, even when things didn't quite go to plan. Today's activities are more structured, neat, and guided by clearer frameworks. But back then, creativity flowed freely, and every mess felt like part of the learning journey. Moment number 5. The end-of-term chaos. The final days of term in the 1980s carried a special kind of electricity. The moment a teacher announced Games Day, the whole room seemed to lift, as if someone had opened the windows to let excitement blow through. Desks were pushed aside for board games, quizzes, and friendly competitions that filled the classroom with laughter. Then came the big cleanup, a ritual of sorting paper piles, gathering stray pencils, and discovering long-lost items behind cupboards. Handwritten report cards waited in neat stacks, each one a small moment of suspense. Perhaps the most symbolic moment was when the colorful wall displays came down. With every staple removed, the room felt a little emptier, signaling that the year was truly ending. Teachers often improvised these sessions, turning the classroom into a temporary playground. Today's end-of-term routines feel calmer and more standardized, but back then, chaos was part of the celebration. Looking back now, it's striking how ordinary those moments seemed at the time, yet they settled into us quietly, shaping resilience, creativity, and the friendships that carried us through childhood. We didn't realize it then, but every shared laugh during a messy craft session and every whispered conversation during a group project helped build a sense of community that stayed long after we left those wooden desks behind. There was joy in the simple things, the rustle of exercise books, the pride of finishing a handmade poster, the thrill of hearing your name praised in front of the class. Even the unpredictability of each day added its own charm, teaching us to adapt, to think on our feet, and to appreciate the small victories. Maybe classrooms were messier, louder, and less polished than today's bright modern spaces, but they were ours. And it's that feeling of belonging, of growing up together in rooms filled with warmth and imperfection, that still echoes so clearly in our memories. Today's classrooms are brighter, calmer, and shaped by digital tools that make learning smoother and more structured. Yet, for all the progress, there is a certain magic in the old ways that can quite be recreated. The warm clutter, the unpredictable moments, the handmade projects that felt like tiny achievements. The 1980s classroom wasn't perfect, but it carried a spirit of togetherness that still lingers in our memories. As we compare then and now, one truth remains. Those small moments stayed with us for a reason. Wait, if you grew up in Old Britain, you'll want to see what I couldn't include in this video. I've posted the deeper story and extra memories on WhatsApp channel. The link is in the description. Join us there. What's one classroom memory from your school days that would never happen now, but still makes you smile? For more of these unbelievable memories, tap the video on your screen. The 1970s stories are something else. Don't forget to subscribe.